Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about some of the scheduling updates that came out for the opening weeks, for some of the later weeks with some of the rivalries that got mixed up a little bit, but definitely going to be a very interesting thing to watch with some of these places in new spots for this upcoming year. But let's get into college football 25 and let's talk about all of the things that are going on, especially today. We are getting some gameplay today. There is going to be a walkthrough probably right about an hour from now, I think at 10:55 Eastern Time, where we will see a lot of the details of this game. Now, I wish that it was coming out before our show started, but that's the reality we live in with this 9 a.m. Start over here. So definitely going to be a very interesting thing to watch. I think we've gotten a ton of details already, though, and 90% of them are awesome. Now there's ers and ahs there that I do not love, and we'll start with those just to get those out of the way. First of all, the biggest thing is Road to Glory will not start in high school. That is something that I don't understand. That is something that I very much hope that they fix in the future because I'm not so interested in playing Road to Glory anymore. I'll be totally honest with you. I loved the high school tournament. I loved playing those games and definitely made it a lot more fun going through the recruitment, going through all of the stuff that gave that mode a lot of special moments. So definitely something that doesn't make me very happy, and I hope that they kind of fix going forward. But it's also, I'm going to be focused on Dynasty for the most part anyway, if I'm being totally honest with you. So not the worst thing in the world, but they definitely do have to fix that going forward if I'm the one voting at least. Another not so bad thing, but not great thing by any means, is a couple of the big time songs that define college football will not be in the game. Enter Sandman, Jump Around will not be in the game, which is obviously not what we want at all, but some people just ask for too much money. That's just the reality of the situation. Some people should ask for a lot of money for these songs. So, not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Definitely will be something that'll be fascinating to watch. But that's kind of it for the bad stuff. I'll be totally honest with you. There have been tons of leaks, but I don't really know if they're real or not. There's tons of people trying to create their own type of leaks just to get a little bit of likes on Twitter, so I don't necessarily want to give a ton of credence to that, but there were tons of other updates. There were tons of things that came out that I definitely want to get to, and we talked about Road to Glory. We talked about missing the songs, but one of the biggest things I want to highlight here is Jacksonville State, App State, Sam Houston State, Liberty, Kennesaw State, Coastal Carolina, James Madison, Georgia Southern, and Charlotte. All of those guys are in the game for the very, very first time. So absolutely huge shout out to those teams. Very, very cool for all of those kids. And definitely something that I might just pick one of these teams to take on a little bit of a run. James Madison is one that I'm watching very closely as I get closer and closer to making that decision. But I think it's going to be fascinating to watch all of this. Number one on my list for good news when we're coming out of this week where we've had a lot of different murmurs and stuff. Not one person that has played this game, that has been involved with this game, has said that it is a Madden reskin. No one has said that it is like Madden. Everyone has said it is more detailed, it is more intense, it is better in every way than what Madden has right now. So that is absolutely fantastic news. Definitely something that people were pretty worried about going into this next going into this game where EA in the past, let's be totally honest, has kind of done that, where it's pretty much the same Madden game over and over. It's pretty much the same FIFA game over and over. So that's definitely something that people were worried about. It sounds like that's not going to be a problem, which is absolutely huge. There are 134 playbooks, 10 different offensive styles, so I'll have to figure out which one I want to use. Definitely going to be a hard decision there. There's also capabilities for some players, and they grow as they get further on in their career. Senior quarterbacks will play better for the majority of the time than freshman quarterbacks, especially reading possible blitzes, reading different coverages, doing some of the things that seniors are better than freshmen at. So definitely going to be a fascinating thing to watch there. Custom conferences are back, so you can kind of play around with that. You can put 20 teams in one conference. You can put, no teams or maybe two teams in one conference like the Pac-12 right now. But for me, I think I'm going to go back to the Southwest Conference days, or at least back to the early Big 12 days where you had Missouri, you had Nebraska, you had Colorado, all the teams that make sense in the Big 12. Let's put it that way. But I think this is going to be an incredible game. It feels like we keep getting closer and closer, and every little detail I hear makes me more excited. It feels like it's going to be very detailed. It's going to be one of those games where you better be locked in, because you can't just, press a button and throw a deep ball to one of the best players and get a glitch and score a touchdown. you're going to have to do a lot of things that you didn't have to do in past games. You're going to have to worry about wear and tear, which apparently is a real part of this game that is going to be a big factor for teams. You have to, figure out what offensive style you want to run, figure out how you want to go about business, and it feels like a lot of this stuff is going to be very, very specific. So absolutely love that. It sounds like the players have specific attributes and abilities based on, what they can do on the football field. So maybe Carson Beck's is really good accuracy, and that's something you can kind of unlock throughout time. Maybe Jalen Milroe's ability is elite speed or escapability, whatever it looks like. It's going to be really remarkable to watch. And then Dynasty is one of the biggest things that I think people are going to be playing in this game, including myself. You can go 30 seasons deep in these Dynasty seasons. I think I'm definitely going to play at least one that goes 30 seasons. I'll put it that way. But you can also have 32 guys, whether they're online or offline. You can play 32 different people on these Dynasty modes. So definitely would be a very, very cool thing to do with all your friends if you got 32 friends to spare that are all on the same console, because it doesn't sound like they're going to have a cross-play between the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox or anything like that. So that's something that I very much hope gets fixed. I definitely will have a very, very long run with one coach. I got to figure out what that name will be, so if you got any coaching names, definitely give me a little bit of a suggestion. I'm going to go kind of the Coach Doug's route by Big Cat over there at Barstool. So definitely something that I'm very much looking forward to. Maybe I'll do a little bit of a preview on these shows by maybe like a selection, like a recruitment for these for the upcoming game. But the Dynasty coach, you have to decide whether you want to be a motivator, a recruiter, or a tactician. All of those things obviously super important, but you got to pick which one you want to build around. If you were to ask me, I would lean tactician, but that's beside the point. You can pick whichever one you want. Obviously, you're going to need to be able to recruit. You're going to need to be able to motivate. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch. The same thing happens with coordinators when you hire them. So you got to build out your staff the way you want it to be. And then recruiting is going to be a fascinating thing to watch. Each class will have 4,000 prospects, including athletes, which were very, very, I think are back in the game, honestly. But you can't create a prospect, so you can't just make, an absolutely crazy athlete that can do everything on the football field and just put him in your game anymore. So definitely, I guess a little bit of a takeaway, if you can say, but it'll be fascinating to watch. You can sign up to 35 players in any class. You can have a roster up to 85 scholarship guys. So you kind of have to work around that. You can encourage guys to go into the transfer portal, which is essentially just cutting them because they essentially cannot decline it. So all of this stuff is just so much detail. And to me, it's really cool. To me, it makes all of this stuff more, intensive and more, you can connect with it more and be more involved. And I think that's always a great thing. Also, in recruiting, you have some pipelines. As we know, let's just take Georgia as a great example. They do incredible work in Florida and incredible work in California, getting some guys. That's the same thing in this game. You're going to have some pipelines, and also some recruits are going to have some deal breakers that you just cannot have in your program or in the conversations with them, that you're going to just lose them outright. So it's going to be very fascinating to watch. I think there's definitely going to be a lot of really interesting things that come out of this game. Definitely a lot of detail, definitely a lot of stuff. Also, one of the big time things that frankly I'm excited about, and I think a lot of you might be as well, NIL is not going to exist in Dynasty mode. So you'll have brand exposure, you'll have TV exposure, whatever. You'll have different things involved in it, but NIL as it is today in college football will not be in, and I very much hope that's the case going forward, because I don't really want to wrap my head around that. I'll be totally honest with you. If it's a headache for Nick Saban and for Kirby Smart in the real world, which is much tougher than a video game, I am not the mentally tough guy that Nick Saban or Kirby Smart is, at least not to that degree. So it's going to be a headache for me too. So I'm not necessarily too upset about that by any means. I do think this is going to be one of those games where I think everyone around the country that is a college football fan is as excited as you can be. This is probably the game that they've looked forward to for the last 11 years, myself included. So as more details come out, the more excited I get, the more into it I get, the more involved I get, and it feels like this game is going to be incredible. I don't want to, jinx myself. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm very excited for the gameplay to come out here in about an hour. I'm definitely going to be watching it right away, and we'll probably break it down on Monday, to be totally honest with you. So this game keeps getting closer, and as it gets closer, I keep getting more and more confident that this is going to be a game that I'm going to love, that everyone's going to love. So cannot wait. It's going to be really special, and once July 16th rolls around, I'm going to be playing that pretty much 24/7 for sure. But that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social pages for all of the content and updates you could possibly need. We have tons of people doing pretty incredible work around every single sport you could want, whether it's wrestling, women's sports, golf, hockey, whatever it is. We have you covered at GSMC Sports, so come on over and take it all in. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.